If you're thinking about moving to Cape Coral, you need to know this. Some of the most expensive streets here flooded worse than some of the cheapest. And that's exactly why most people are asking the wrong question. The real question isn't just, is Cape Coral worth it? It's which part, at what elevation, built in what year, and for what lifestyle. If we haven't met, I'm Rick Harrison. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. My team has helped over 100 people successfully buy homes in this area, including buyers navigating the market after Ian and the rebuild that followed. So if you're thinking about moving to Cape Coral, whether you're a boater wanting canal access, a family looking for space and value, or someone comparing this to Naples or Fort Myers, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to break down the 4 quadrants of Cape Coral, why they feel like 4 completely different cities, what $400,000 to $1 million actually buys you in each one, which areas were hit hardest during the storms and why, how flood zones and insurance really work here, where the new luxury homes are going up, and whether projects like Seven Islands actually change the future of the city. Cape Coral can be an incredible move or a very expensive mistake, depending on how you approach it. So let's start with what Cape Coral actually is, because most people don't fully understand this city before they buy into it. Cape Coral exists for one reason: water. This entire city was carved out of canals in the 1950s and 60s. It wasn't built around a walkable downtown. It wasn't built around beachfront high-rises. It was built around the idea that everyday people could own waterfront property. That's why there are over 400 miles of canals here, more than anywhere else in the world. And that one decision still shapes everything about this place. The layout, the neighborhoods, the property values, the lifestyle, even the flood exposure. When you build a city around canals instead of elevation and density, you get trade-offs. You get backyard docks, you get space between homes, you get wide streets, driveways, pools, boats behind your houses, but you also get lower elevation in certain pockets. You get more variability in insurance, and you get neighborhoods that can feel dramatically different from one another. Cape Coral isn't glamorous, it's practical. It's concrete block homes, suburban grids, families, retirees, boaters, remote workers, all mixed into a city that was designed to give people more space and more water access than most of Southwest Florida. So now let's zoom in and break it down quadrant by quadrant. Cape Coral is divided into 4 main quadrants: southeast, southwest, northeast, and northwest. And even though they're all under the same city name, they do not feel the same. Let's start with the one most people look at first. The Southeast Cape is the most mature part of the city. This is where Cape Coral developed first and fastest. Many of the homes here were built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. If you're a serious boater, this is often where your search begins. From a pure boating access standpoint, Southeast is hard to beat, but here's the trade-off. Because this area is older, you'll see more pre-2002 construction. That can mean higher wind insurance if roofs or mitigation updates haven't been done. During Hurricane Ian, some of the hardest hit waterfront streets were in parts of Southeast, particularly those closer to the open water and lower elevations. That doesn't mean avoid Southeast, it means buy smart. Now here's something important that many buyers overlook. The city of Cape Coral is investing hundreds of millions of dollars into completely reimagining the yacht club area. For boaters, that's significant. It's not just cosmetic, it signals long-term commitment to Southeast waterfront. And perception drives demand. Price-wise, this quadrant is still relatively flexible. Older non-waterfront homes often start in the high 300s to 400s. Renovated homes move into the 500s. Gulf access waterfront properties can start in the 700s and climb quickly. But if you want primarily newer construction, higher elevation pockets, or more growth-oriented vibe, that's where the conversation shifts. Let's move west. The Southeast Cape is the original boating hub. The Southwest is where things start to feel more polished. This area has a strong mix of early 2000s homes, newer builds, and high-end waterfront properties. From a price standpoint, Southwest Cape generally runs a little higher than Southeast for comparable condition. Non-waterfront homes often start in the low to mid 400s and climb into the 5 and 6s. Waterfront homes, especially Gulf access, can easily move into the 8, 900s and well past $1 million depending on location and canal width, though flood zones still vary street by street. During Ian, some canal-heavy pockets here experienced surge and flooding, particularly closer to open water. Now, if you're less focused on the boating and more focused on pure value or convenience, we head northeast. The Northeast Cape is where things start to shift away from heavy boating culture more towards practicality. You'll notice fewer Gulf access canals here and more freshwater systems. From a housing standpoint, Northeast Cape has a strong mix of early 2000s homes and newer construction. Non-waterfront homes here frequently start in the mid 300s and move into the 400s. Newer builds can push into the 450s and 500s, especially if upgraded. One of the big advantages in many Northeast pockets is flood designation. Insurance can be more predictable here, especially in newer homes built under updated codes. It's not flashy, it's not luxury focused. It's functional, practical, and often financially efficient. The Northwest Cape might be the most misunderstood quadrant in the entire city. Right now, two very different markets exist in the Northwest. On one side, you have entry-level new construction, starting in the mid to high 300s and climbing into the 400s, depending on upgrades. But on the other side of Northwest Cape, you're seeing something very different. Large, custom waterfront homes. Some of the most visually impressive new homes in all of Cape are being built in Northwest Canal systems right now. And then there's the growth factor. The Seven Island Projects is planned for the northwest portion of the Cape, a large mixed-use development concept with marina elements, dining, and commercial expansion. Now here's where it gets interesting. For years, the city has discussed the possibility of creating another pass to the Gulf on the northwest side. It's been talked about for a long time. It's not guaranteed, it's not imminent. From a flood and storm standpoint, elevation varies street by street. However, many newer builds are elevated higher than older sections of the city and constructed to modern wind standards. Now let's talk about a part most people are either worried about or completely misunderstand: flood zones. Cape Coral is a low elevation canal-based city. Water management is built into the design of this place, but flood risk is not uniform. If you want accurate data in Lee County, use the official FEMA flood insurance rate maps through Lee County's site, leegov.com/DCD/flood. Now let's simplify what you'll typically see in Cape Coral. Zone AE, this is a special flood hazard area. Zone A, also a special flood hazard area, but this one's without the detailed elevation studies shown on the standard map. Zone AH or AO, these are shallow flooding zones. Then you have Zone X. This is outside of the special flood zone hazard. Insurance is not required by lenders, though many homeowners still do choose to carry it. Now let's talk storm history, because this city has been tested. Hurricane Ian 2022. Ian was primarily a storm surge event for Cape Coral. Older homes built pre-2002, especially without elevation improvements, saw the most damage. Homes built after updated codes, especially post-2004, generally perform significantly better structurally. Helene in 2023 and Milton in 2024. These storms were different. More wind and heavy rainfall than major surge. Some flooding in Cape Coral happens due to heavy rainfall and high water tables, especially in lower lying pockets. So what does this mean for you? It means you don't shop by headlines. You shop by elevation certificate, flood map designation, roof age, wind mitigation features. Cape Coral isn't unsafe, it's nuanced. If you understand the nuance, it can absolutely make sense. If you ignore it, it can get very expensive. Now let's talk about the real question. What does it actually cost to live here in 2026? And what kind of neighborhood are you getting for your money in each quadrant? Step 1, the financial framework. Here's the general non-waterfront pricing landscape right now. Entry level is roughly around $325,000 to $380,000. Mid-tier about $400,000 to $550,000. Newer, larger homes $550,000 to $700,000. Gulf access waterfront typically $700,000 to $1.5 million and up. But here's what most people miss. Your purchase price is only part of the equation. Let's break down what a real monthly payment actually looks like. Step 2, the real monthly cost. Let's use a clean example. Purchase price, $450,000. Now you're realistically looking at $3,700 to $4,400 per month. And that number changes dramatically depending on which quadrant you buy in, how old the home is, and whether you're near water. So let's break it down by quadrant based on current prices as of making this video. In Southeast Cape, you're buying into most established part of the city. Price-wise, older non-waterfront homes typically start around the mid to high 300s and can run into the mid 400s. If the home has been fully renovated, you'll often see pricing in the $450,000 to $600,000 range. And Gulf access waterfront properties generally start around the 700s and climb well past $1 million depending on location and canal quality. The Southeast is best for boaters who want shorter runs to the river, buyers who prioritize location over brand new finishes, and people comfortable updating or renovating. Southwest Cape Coral, balanced and growing. In the Southwest, pricing generally starts around the low 400s for non-waterfront resale homes and runs into the mid 500s. Newer construction, especially homes built after 2015, typically ranges from the mid 400s into the 600s. Gulf access waterfront homes usually begin in the mid to high 700s and move well into the $1 million range. Southwest is ideal for families, move-up buyers, and people who want a polished neighborhood feel without paying the Naples level pricing. Northeast Cape Coral, value and access. The Northeast is typically where you'll find some of the best value. Homes built in the early 2000s often range from the mid 300s into the mid 400s. New construction typically falls between the high 300s and low 500s. Larger or upgraded homes can reach into the 500s and low 600s. Northeast is best for families, remote workers, and buyers who prioritize value over boating access. Northwest Cape Coral, long-term play. The Northwest is where things get interesting. New construction often starts in the mid 300s and runs into the mid 400s. Larger homes typically range from the mid 400s into the 500s. Custom luxury waterfront homes are now well into 7 figures. Northwest is ideal for first-time buyers wanting new construction, long-term investors looking at growth corridors, and luxury buyers who want large, modern waterfront homes without paying coastal Naples prices. Now, this is where surprises tend to happen, because 2 homes can be priced the same and have completely different monthly realities. First, utility assessments. Second, boat lifts and seawalls. And then there's insurance. Now here's where it gets interesting. Affordability doesn't automatically mean safety from storms. And some of the cheapest inland areas actually held up better during Ian than some of the most expensive waterfront streets, which brings us right back to the most important point. Flood history and lot positioning matter more than headline pricing. But here's the bigger picture. Cape Coral only has these flood conversations because it was built around something most cities don't have at this scale: water. If boating is even remotely important to you, Cape Coral is a completely different category than most Florida cities. There are over 400 miles of canals here. That's not a marketing line, that's the design of the city. Now here's where the nuance comes in. Not all canals are the same. There are generally 3 types you'll see: freshwater canals, saltwater canals with Gulf access. These connect to the river and eventually the Gulf of Mexico. And then within Gulf access, there are tiers. Some properties offer direct sailboat access with no bridges. Some require passing under bridges with height restrictions. Some require going through a lock system. Some canals are 5 minutes from open water, others 30 minutes of idle speed before you reach the river. 2 listings can both say Gulf access and offer completely different boating experiences. Now let's talk about where boating access is strongest. The Southeast Cape has some of the quickest runs to the river and Gulf. The Southwest also has excellent access, especially in wide canal systems. Parts of the Northwest are seeing impressive new waterfront construction, though some areas have longer idle times before reaching open water. The Northeast generally does not offer Gulf access. It's more value-driven and less boating-focused. If boating is your primary driver, Southeast and Southwest are often your starting points. If boating is a nice-to-have, but not essential, Northeast and Northwest may make more sense financially. Cape Coral gives you the option. The key is deciding how much the water access is worth to you. And while boating might get people interested, everyday life is what determines whether Cape Coral actually works long-term. This city feels suburban. Most errands require driving. They're spread out throughout the city rather than concentrated in one downtown core. For families, that could be a positive. There are public and charter school options throughout the Cape. Parks and recreation programs, youth sports leagues, community playgrounds, boat ramps, and water access for weekend activities. Pine Island Road serves as the main commercial corridor. Healthcare access is strong with Cape Coral Hospital and easy connection to the larger Fort Myers medical system. Commute is also something to think about. Bridge traffic during peak hours can create bottlenecks. Safety perception in most residential neighborhoods is generally solid. And here's something important. Cape Coral is still evolving. Parts of the Northwest are actively building out retail and infrastructure. The real question becomes, do you want finished and dense, or do you want flexible and spacious? Cape Coral leans heavily toward the second. And for families, remote workers, and buyers who value room to grow, that can be a major advantage. But that advantage comes with trade-offs. And if you're deciding whether Cape Coral is really worth it, you need to see both sides clearly. Let's start with the strengths. Cape Coral is still one of the more affordable ways to own property in Southwest Florida, especially compared to true coastal markets like Naples. It offers something rare: backyard boating access at scale. There's flexibility in pricing, newer construction options, and the city is still growing. Now the other side. Flood risk and insurance complexity are real. Hurricanes are part of life here. Preparation and smart buying matter. The city is spread out. Cape Coral isn't perfect. It's practical. It rewards informed buyers, and it frustrates buyers who move here without understanding the nuance. So now the real question becomes, who does this actually make sense for? Cape Coral makes the most sense for a very specific type of buyer. It's a strong fit if you're a boater who wants real backyard access. It's a strong fit if you want more house for your money. If you value space, a driveway, a yard, maybe a pool. It works well for families who want residential neighborhoods, parks, and room to grow. It works for remote workers who don't need to cross the bridges every single day. It can make sense for investors looking at long-term population growth and rental demand. And it especially works for buyers who are willing to be strategic, who choose quadrants intentionally instead of emotionally. Now, who might struggle here? If you want beachfront living, this isn't it. If you want a dense downtown lifestyle, this isn't it either. If you don't want to think about insurance, elevation, or storm preparation at all, this may not feel comfortable. If you want a finished, ultra-polished luxury coastal city, you may lean more towards Naples. Cape Coral rewards people who understand what it is, but it requires informed decision-making. And that brings us back to the original question. So is Cape Coral, Florida really worth moving to? The honest answer is yes, for the right buyer. If you want backyard boating access without paying true beachfront prices, if you want flexibility from mid-300s entry points to custom waterfront builds, if you value space and suburban living over walkable downtown energy, and if you're willing to understand elevation, flood zones, and insurance before you buy, then yes, Cape Coral can absolutely be worth it. It's not perfect, it's not stormproof, it's not polished luxury on every corner, but it offers something very few Florida cities can offer at this scale. If you choose the right quadrant at the right elevation with the right build year, it can be a smart move financially and lifestyle-wise. If you ignore those details, it can feel expensive. That's the difference. And that's why the real question isn't just, is Cape Coral worth it? It's, is it worth it for you? And that's really what this comes down to. Cape Coral isn't a yes or no city. It's a buy it the right way city. If you're serious about moving here, the smartest next step isn't just scrolling listings. It's getting specific about your situation, your budget, your timeline, whether you're a boater, whether you're commuting, whether you care more about elevation or access. Because once you narrow that down, the right quadrant and the right type of property becomes much clearer. If you'd like help doing that, reach out to me directly. My contact information is on the screen below, in the description, and pinned in the comments. Call, text, email, whatever is easiest for you, and we can talk through your specific scenario and build a strategy around it. And if you're not quite ready to have that conversation yet, that's completely fine. You guys can download my Southwest Florida Relocation Kit using the QR code on your screen or in the link in the description. It walks you through flood zones, insurance expectations, area comparisons, cost of living breakdowns, everything you need to start evaluating this move intelligently before you ever step foot down here. I hope this video helped you see Cape Coral more clearly, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.